Good morning. I can see people starting to come in now. Jordan, Bradley, Kerry, and Charlene, welcome. Bevan, welcome. We'll just give everyone a couple of minutes to sift in. I believe we have 11 people scheduled to arrive this morning. Yes, still 11. So we've got 7 people so far. We'll just wait another couple of minutes. Morena, Charlene. Morning, Debbie. Nine people, almost everyone, and then we'll kick off. Well, we'll wait one more minute and then kick off. Based on experience, there's always one or two people who are a few minutes late. Rightio, we've got an hour, so I don't want to waste too much time. There we are, 10 people. Great, great. 10's good. Let me make sure I'm going to share my screen again. Sorry, I've clicked the wrong button there. Unshared it. Share entire screen. So hopefully you can see my Copilot skills slide at the moment and you can hear me fine. If someone could just confirm that for me, it's probably a good start, confirming that you can hear and see the slides. Anyone? Yes, Ben. Good. Great. Thanks, Bradley. Thanks, Julie. Okie dokie, welcome along to Copilot Skills. So this is the second in 4 of the Copilot series that I am presenting over the next 3 weeks now. I'm actually working on a 4th session, which is probably going to be Copilot Studio. There's quite a bit more interest forming around Copilot Studio and some of the agent and autonomous agent workflows that can be created in Copilot Studio. And there's a huge amount of power in there, but that's not our focus for today. So my name is Ben Walker. I am an AI advisor at New Zealand AI. And I have worked in technology for the last 25 years in varying different areas. Most recently, AI with the advent of generative AI. This has become quite a big focus for me. So I work with a lot of organizations around the country, helping them to adopt technology and AI, align it with their business and actually start to achieve something. So I'm really focused on that practical AI piece. And I do love getting out in the hills for a run. I haven't been running the last few weeks as much as I'd like to, but last week I was away with Justin Flitter from New Zealand AI. He's the founded New Zealand AI about 7 years ago, and I did manage to get out for a run. We were presenting at a conference in Hammer Springs, so the picture on the screen there is Hammer Springs. It was a beautiful morning. I like to get out before the sun rises, and that was what I managed to do last Thursday. I'm at about 500 meters down the road before a magpie decided to swoop me, decided I was a threat to its young ones or whatever, and it swooped me probably about 3 times. I continued down the road. I saw 3 fallow deer run out of the bush and jump over the fences and disappear into the paddocks. I ran into some llamas. They're alpacas, sorry. And I tried to get them a pet, but they weren't very interested in me. And I found a side road that headed up the hill, and I often like to take the opportunity to, explore a little bit, but I turned into a private road. and I managed to grab a couple of photos. Now, I'm sharing this story because there's some synergies to AI at the moment. Despite being a couple of years into generative AI, we're still early. We're still early to the piece, much like me getting up early to go for my run. And in these early stages, there's plenty of opportunity for discovery, but there's also risks and benefits. Often uh, I guess the benefits come with those risks, and we've got to be careful of those risks in AI. But many opportunities for us today. So today we're going to cover basically Copilot across the suite: Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Teams, maybe some other apps as well. Talk about some of the repetitive tasks and meeting tasks that you can undertake with Copilot, and learn some tips around Copilot in the shared workspace with what's possible there in Pages and Notebook, and some opportunities to optimize your daily work. So what is Copilot? Some of you will have been using Copilot for a while, and some of you might be quite new to Copilot. Now, I'm working on the basis that you've got a license, which basically means you've got work and web up the top of your screen, which would be a business license. And we'll get to that in a moment. Copilot was released in 20 and didn't really find its feet until the end of 23. In 2024, Microsoft rolled out about 700 product updates and about 150 new features. They teamed up with OpenAI to basically provide the power in the back end, the model that they use, all modules these days. So if you think of ChatGPT, GPT-5, that is what is being used in Copilot now, along with some other models. The models focus on different things. So if you're generating an image, it's using a different model to what it is if you're generating output from a deep research prompt. Now, ChatGPT used to be ahead of Copilot with the release of GPT-5. Copilot essentially rolled that out on the same day. So Microsoft said, right, we're going to catch up with Copilot with ChatGPT. So they're pretty much neck and neck in terms of the functionality. In some areas, I'd say business functionality, Copilot has the edge. And in some other areas, probably some of the early release features and that sort of thing, and probably more of a personal experience, Chat GPT has a little bit of an edge. So they moved from 90 days to 30 days to right up to date in terms of the functionality that they're providing in Copilot. Every month, Microsoft rolls out about 100 updates now. So they went from maybe around 55 a month to about 100 updates a month this year. So dramatic changes. So every time I present on Copilot, it's changed a little bit. So if I look a little bit shocked, it's probably because something's changed and Microsoft haven't told me. Why they'd tell me, I don't know. You don't need to remember this. There's no test, but this is just some of the differences between M365 Copilot Chat Free and the licensed version. I'll let you refer to this later on just for your information, basically. But this is something I put together this month, and it's as of this month. It changes quite frequently. The key thing to note here, you'll see all these no's under personal assistant. If you don't have the licensed version, you don't have the same degree of integration into the Microsoft applications that you do in the paid version, in the licensed version. Now, with the licensed version, you can pay on a yearly basis, on a yearly subscription, or you can sign up monthly now, which has just been released in about the last month or so. So it makes it a more feasible proposition for some businesses that don't want to commit a license for every user. There's some other limits in the free version, but largely you can get a pretty good taste of the functionality. And through the M365 Office plans, basically, if you've got Word, Excel, etc., available to you, potentially use Exchange in the cloud, you can access a lot of these areas of functionality within Copilot and in some of the applications to a certain extent. Now, as I go, feel free, everyone, to chuck in questions. I've got the chat up on another screen here, so if you see me looking around, it's because I've got too many monitors. but I'll try and pick up on any questions as they come in. So Copilot is everywhere. If you have a license, even if you don't have a license, you'll see it popping up in Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Teams, Forms, and various other applications. When Copilot started to be integrated, it was kind of siloed. So if you wanted to do something in Outlook, you'd have to be using Outlook. If you wanted to do something in Teams, you'd have to be using Teams. But they have started to cross those boundaries. So if I'm in Teams and I open up my Copilot prompt, I can do a whole bunch of things, including querying my emails. The same thing in Outlook. If I'm in Outlook and I open up my prompt, I can open all my chat box and create a prompt. I can query Teams as well. And I can do that from the standard chat interface also. So this is where we are going to be playing today, at least primarily, and then we'll jump to some of the applications. So this is the Copilot chat interface at m365.cloud.microsoft. You can see here I have got work and web up the top, which indicates I have got a license and it's integrated into my applications, my SharePoint, Teams, etc., and can access my files. Now, by default, Copilot has access to anything that you have access to in your profile under your user account in your organization. So if I had access to a specific SharePoint folder or OneDrive, etc., I have access to those by default within Copilot. So that integration and the security aspect are the two key things that Copilot has going for it. And they're two of the reasons that a lot of organizations select Copilot, because it's kind of a safe option for them. If they've got an existing tenancy where they're keeping their files and sharing files and running their organization on within that tenancy, Copilot will abide by the privileges, etc., that you have in place. So that means if I didn't have access to a particular file or group of files or a folder, etc., potentially a team in Teams or whatever, I don't have access to that today. So it respects those boundaries. So feel free to jump into m365.cloud.microsoft. The other way that we can do this is you can use the M365 Copilot app. The copilot.microsoft.com address is the private or the personal or the consumer version of Copilot. If you have the Copilot app on your machine, that is essentially the consumer version. A lot of machines are shipping with Copilot on them now, opposed to M365 Copilot. So I just want to make that differentiation because there is a little bit of a difference there, or a big difference in terms of the functionality and the functionality that you'll see today in M365. So what I might do is jump straight into that. So you can see when I jump into my interface here, up the top, I have work and web. If I select work, it has access to my work documents. If I select web, it only has access to the web. We can further restrict that. I can turn off web search. If I tap on these three dots up in the top left, top right hand corner here, I can turn off web search, which means that it will only access work files. So if I wanted to find some information in SharePoint or Teams or wherever it might reside, and I only wanted to look in my work locations, I can do that. I can leverage GPT-5 or whatever model I might be using, GPT-5 being the most recent one, to search just work documents within my work environment. So that's with that web search, and we change between work and web up here. GPT-5, so I would suggest use GPT-5 if you've got the opportunity, if you've got this box up here, because it's the latest model that's been released from OpenAI. A couple of other things that I will cover briefly is the opportunity to create scheduled prompts. So this is a pretty cool one. If I do something like, tell me about the latest AI recording devices that are portable. It's not a fantastic prompt, but it's a question anyway. I'm kind of using Copilot little bit like Google here. So if I create a prompt like that in here, I'm just going to go away, have a bit of a think about it, bring me back the key and most recent trends in this area. It's going to bring up Claude and these latest products. I'm actually investigating Claude at the moment for myself. Haven't quite finished that investigation. But you'll see, if I go back and point to my prompt, once that's completed, I've got some options here. I can edit it, I can copy it, I can schedule it, I can save it, and I can copy it. The two that I want to cover off are schedule. So I could actually schedule this prompt to run on a regular basis. So you could imagine if there was an Excel spreadsheet that was generated every Monday morning, Monday at 10 o'clock, I could schedule a prompt to go and look at that spreadsheet and derive some insights for me on a weekly basis. And I would do that by selecting the day that I wanted it to run. So I might deselect all of these days. And then I would say Monday at 10 a.m. for the next 10 weeks, I want to run this prompt and return a result for me. And I can receive an email when the response is completed as well. So quite a good feature. The other thing I can do in here is save this prompt. So if I wanted to be able to leverage this prompt again in the future, my prompt is down here. It might be a long prompt that I use on a regular basis. And I could give it a name, AI recording devices. And I can save that and then use it in the future. The way that I'd use that in the future is I'd go start a new chat. If I go see more here, I can go to my prompt gallery. So there's a bunch of suggestions in here from Microsoft and also my prompts. So you can see I've got my AI recording devices one here and summarize my meetings for today. So that's another one that I've put in the past. So if I click on this, it automatically populates my prompt. So some pretty handy features there. The other thing that I can do is memories. So if I jump into settings, personalization, I can create custom instructions. So these are instructions in the back end that basically tell Copilot how to format its responses and work with me. So I could say, hey, look, I live in Dunedin. I do this for a job. I have 3 kids. I like running whatever I want Copilot to know about me in the back end. It means that I don't have to provide quite as much information when I'm generating my prompts. So I can generate a prompt and exclude some information that I know is in these custom instructions. The second thing I can do here is memory. So I can ask Copilot to remember things about me. So you'll see I have previously said, hey, I'm the owner and CEO at Big Sports Shoes. So if I wanted to create a memory, I could say, remember, I like talking to alpacas. Copilot's going to go away and say, oh, okay, what do I do with this? Well, sounds like Ben likes to talk to alpacas. I'll save that to my memory. So it says memory updated. Ben Walker likes talking to alpacas. From here, I can go back and manage my memories. If it was something that I did not want Copilot to remember, I can delete that from the list and it will disappear. I can also delete all the memories if I wanted to, and I can also turn that off. So good options in there. In a later session, I think it's not the next one, but the one after, we start to dig into some of these agents. There's the researcher agent and the analyst agent, which are some of the latest ones that Microsoft had built in based on open AI models. So deep research and data analysis. If I jump into researcher, I want to show you something cool here. You'll see I've actually got try Claude up the top here. So I have enabled Anthropic's Claude model, which takes a little bit of fiddling in the background. But Microsoft is starting to work with Anthropic to provide some of their models. And this might not be something you know because it only was released 2 days ago. So they've integrated it into Researcher. And if I jump into, there's a little bit of a segue, but if I jump into my Copilot Studio, I've also got the option not only selecting these OpenAI models, but selecting Claude, Sonnet, and Opus. So researcher, analyst, this is a custom agent that I've created, and I also run a session on that one. And I've got my conversations down the side here. The other thing that I could do, if I go back to my prompt, I'll go to my conversation history here. Oh, I've got Claude on, so we'll see what it comes back with. Going to come back for, I'm not going to do that because that's going to take too long. One of the things with deep research is it can take quite a long time to complete your prompts. What I'm going to do is jump back out of that. I'm going to go to my prompts here, prompt gallery, your prompts. Tell me about my meeting devices. I'm going to run this one because I just want to show you a little bit about pages and notebooks. So down the left-hand side here, we also have pages and notebooks. Pages and notebooks are a way of sharing your prompt outputs with people externally, essentially. So you can save your content in here for future reference, or you may be working in a team and you can collaborate in the form of a notebook. So once this is completed, down the bottom here, I have the option to go edit in pages. I've got a few other options here as well, including scheduling this prompt. I can go edit in pages. What that does is dumps it into this Pages app and then allows me to share the page link, or I can copy this and share it with someone else. So it means that my wife does this all the time. She will go off and do a search and then share the research that she's done with me, so that I can go and review it at my leisure. So this may be if you are working in a project team and you needed to do some discovery on a particular topic, you may go and do your independent research and then share it with each other. We can also add this content to a notebook. So if I go add this page to a notebook, I have an existing notebook called Ben's Super Notebook, and I can add this page in there. So I've done my prompt, generated my output, put that into a page and added the page to a notebook. So it's kind of logical. If I jump back out here, I can go notebooks, I can go to Ben's Super Notebook and see that I have several pages in here that I've added. So I can add all this content in there, retain all this content in here and share it as well. I can add additional references in here as well. I can query the notebook. So if I've got a whole bunch of content in there, I can then go and talk to Copilot about the content. If you're familiar with Notebook LM, this is similar sort of functionality. So Google produces a product called Notebook LM. It allows you to add content to a location and then talk to that content. So we're doing the same thing here. Once that information's in here, I can go and talk to the content, and you'll see that it's using Researcher here to do that. Rightio. I'm going to continue on. Last thing here I'll cover is create. So I think they used to call it creator. They've just called it create. It used to be located under the agents. Microsoft have moved it down here now. But create allows you to use another one of the OpenAI models to generate imagery, designs, what else? Infographics, posters, all sorts of things like this. So I can actually upload images and ask it to create an image in the style of this. So I may have a photo of me standing on a mountain with my arms in the air, and I can say, hey, change the background to space, make me look like a spaceman, and it would do that. So one of the terms I've heard used for Copilot now is that it's an AI productivity suite. So they're really starting to extend the productivity across all their applications and across a whole bunch of different areas rather than just focusing on this chat. Okie dokie. I kind of focused on the chat for a little bit there because the chat pops up in a whole bunch of different places and we can use it in a similar way in some of the other applications such as Outlook. Now, in the slides, I'll jump back to the slides here. I've just got some prompts for you here, basically saying, hey, look, this is some of the things that we looked at. I'll provide these slides afterwards. I have also added in some notes on pages just for your reference as well. And we might jump into Teams. Will we jump into Teams? Yes, let's jump into Teams. So I always use the web apps because I know they're the most up to date, and I know they're going to give me a consistent experience. So I'm just going to minimize my chats there. And I'm not actually going to go into... Sorry, I'm just thinking about this. Last time I launched a Teams meeting from here, what happened was I killed the webinar. So I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to talk you through it. So in Teams, we have the functionality to enable transcription and recording. So if I went Meet Now and I started a meeting, I could start a meeting in Teams, and then I would be able to turn on transcription and recording. And they are both Copilot features, essentially. While recording's been there for a little bit, even if you got the free version, you can turn on transcription now too. Transcription in Teams means that you are recording everything that every participant in that meeting is saying and transcribing it essentially to a file. During the meeting, you can go and query the content of that meeting, essentially. So if I arrived into the meeting 10 minutes late, I could jump into Copilot and I could say, what have I missed? As long as transcription is on in that meeting, I can go and talk to the transcript, essentially, leveraging Copilot. I could say, what actions have been assigned to me in Teams? So you can continue that, you can converse with Teams after the fact. So we've finished our meeting. I could continue to converse with the meeting. So the transcript would be generated. If I jump back into my chat here, if I go to meeting chats, meeting with Ben Walker, it's one of my example ones. You can see I can say view recap or view the transcript. If I go view recap, I'm not in here with the right license. Anyway, it will give me some AI notes. So it's going to say get premium if you don't have a license. Otherwise, it's going to give me a bunch of AI notes in here. It will have mentions. So the mentions will be when I am mentioned in the meeting. Here we go. Ben was mentioned and someone said this about Ben, or someone said that Ben was working on this particular aspect. Probably the key one in here is the transcript. Let me grab another meeting with a better transcript. I'll go straight to transcript here, and you'll see that here's my transcript from my one-person meeting, in this case, Ben Walker, and these are all the things that I said during this meeting. I can download this transcript as a document file, a docx file, or a VTT, which is a transcription file. What I often do is download the transcription and then turn it into minutes in my Copilot chat. So I would upload the transcription file and say, please turn this into minutes. Make sure you list out the actions, the attendees, the time of the meeting, any plans for the next meeting, etc. And that means I'm turning the transcription file directly into minutes. One of the things that I do in one of the next sessions is actually create an agent that can imbibe that transcription file and turn it directly into minutes without needing a long prompt, essentially, and using templates. So if you have a template for your business, for your company, you can use that template to generate minutes. So I can say, hey, look, here's my transcription file. Here's my minutes. Using this, here's my minutes template. Using this minutes template, create minutes for this transcript. We do that in the Microsoft and the Copilot chat as well. Rightio, I'm just going to jump back into my notes here, into the sheets. Let's jump into Microsoft Outlook. Let me open up my apps here. We'll go to Outlook. Now I'm just going to sign in with a different account that does have a full license. Go to my demo folder. I'll have a wee look here. So out of the box, one of the opportunities you have with Microsoft Copilot is to summarize emails. I'm just going to delete this partially completed reply here, and that one, and this one. So if I click on Summary by Copilot, and this could be an email coming in from anyone, it's going to give me a full summary of the email content. So this one's, a long newsletter on a new pair of shoes that have been released. So if I click Summary, it's going to give me a summary of that email with key detail. If I say Ask Copilot, I can ask questions of Copilot about my inbox or about this email, about the content, etc. So I can have a conversation with essentially my inbox. I could say something along the lines of, "Hey, I was always sick yesterday. Can you recap the emails that I missed? Could you please recap the emails and Teams messages that I might have missed when I was away?" As per the chat, we have work and web up the top here. We have some of the similar options, recent pages, etc. I can open up the navigation panel here, and I can actually use researcher and analyst from here as well, or some of the other agents that I may have created. So a similar sort of interface, just a little bit different. You'll get the suggestions down the bottom here, but not your prompt suggestions or the memories that you might have saved. So similar experience, but not quite the same. So if we have another look at this email here, I could say, "Hey, look, I want to reply to this email." Getting messages pop up. So what I could do here is draft with Copilot. So this gives me the option of creating a reply leveraging Copilot. So I'm going to click on my Copilot button here and say, "These shoes sound great. Where can I buy them?" Hit go. And Copilot's going to go and write a nice email back to Speedland and say, "Hey, look, Ben wants to buy these shoes. Where can I buy them?" Now, when that content is generated, you'll see it here. "Kia ora, Speedland team. These shoes sound fabulous. Fabulous. I want to buy a pair," basically. I can go and edit that, change the tone. So I could say, "Hey, look, make it like a poem." Copilot's going to go and change this to be a bit more like a poem. Let's see. While it's doing that, I'll jump to the question here. Does a transcript work when the attendees are all in the same room? George, yes and no. Microsoft are working on that, and they're putting a couple of things in place to make it better. I guess the easy answer at the moment is, if you don't have a whole bunch of Microsoft investment, Microsoft Teams kit, you haven't trained teams to work on facial recognition and voice recognition, it doesn't work that well. In which case, I'd suggest something like Otter or Fireflies for in-person meetings, and where you can generate your notes again. You can generate a VTT file or a docx file and turn that transcription into minutes. So the easy option at the moment, I would suggest using Fireflies for in-person meetings. It works a bit better than Teams. Second question I had down here is, could an agent, like you spoke about in Teams, create tasks and planner from the meeting rather than produce minutes? Yes, you can do that. It's not straightforward, Bevan, but definitely possible. So in Copilot Studio, you can build workflows that would say, "Hey, look for actions," or if it was a project kickoff, say, look for actions in this meeting, or things that have been defined as tasks that need to be undertaken in this project and turn those into actions in Planner. So you could do it in Planner, you could do it in To-Do, you could do it in a whole bunch of different platforms. The integration is there, that you just need to do a little bit of work to build that workflow. So if I jump back to my screen here, you can see that it's generated a poem back to Speedland. If I like that, I can say keep it. Now, one thing you'll notice here is it says Kiora. Where does it get that from? How does it know that I might start an email like that? Or even for that matter, how does it know that I sign off thanks? And why is it writing an email in this way? This is something I cover in a bit more detail in the next session, but we'll cover it very briefly now. If I go into my Copilot settings in Outlook, we have the option to create draft instructions. These instructions define how Copilot writes emails on your behalf or replies to emails, etc. So you'll see in here, I have a style guide. And I might say things like Kia ora. I might sign off an email with thanks. So when Copilot is writing emails for me, it's referring to the style guide, these custom instructions. Much like I've got the custom instructions in my Outlook in my Copilot chat, these are the draft instructions for Outlook specifically. So there's a whole bunch of information in here, and there's an easy way to generate this in terms of you can essentially scrape your previous emails, run a prompt saying scrape my emails, generate my style guide, and pump it into here. I can also click on my full Copilot chat in the left-hand bar here, and it brings me up the full chat experience, opposed to this one that sort of sits off to the side. So this one is more to focus on your email content, emails that have come in, etc. And then you have the full chat option over here. Anything else to show you on Outlook? Probably not. I think that'll be fine for the moment. Let's jump back into PowerPoint. So a couple of examples that I talked about there. Hey, look, I'm coming back from leave. I want to draft an email. The other thing that you can do is get some coaching. So I might have written an email. I could select that and then I could say, hey, Copilot, give me some coaching. I could also go and change the content as well. So that I could say, make it more formal, make it relevant for an executive audience, etc. I could say, hey, look, in the Outlook Copilot chat, go and find the emails that look most important or urgent. Right, I am going to jump into Microsoft Word. So a couple of things here. If you haven't been to any of my previous sessions, you may not have seen this before, but this is GCSE. This is the Microsoft Prompt Framework, basically saying, hey, look, when you create a prompt, you want to have a goal, a context, a source, and expectations as part of that prompt. It's just a nice way of pulling all the right pieces together to generate the outcome that you're looking for with your prompt. So in this example, I am going to write a privacy policy. So my organization needs a new privacy policy on categorization of data. And what I'm going to do is refer to the Privacy Act to generate this document. So I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to say, hey, look, I want to open up Microsoft Word. Close a couple of my windows as I go. So I'm going to say create blank document. Pick my account. Got too many accounts there. By default, all things being equal, Copilot's going to pop up here and give me some suggestions around documents I could create. But what I'm going to do is paste in my prompt. I need to write a privacy policy document on categorization of data for different blah, 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 blah. It's essentially my prompt according to GCSE. So I've specified the goal that I want. I want to generate a privacy policy, the context. I need to categorize different levels of data. I need to have it clear, concise, and providing practical guidelines. And I'm going to be generating a Word document. So that's my expectation. And my expectation is also that it's going to generate a policy document. And the last thing I'm going to do is go add content. And I know I've got the privacy policy sitting in my OneDrive or somewhere. So I'm going to say, oh, the Privacy Act. Yep, here it is. And I'll attach the Privacy Act. So it's going to refer to the Privacy Act to help me generate this content. So I'll click go. Copilot will go off and do its best to generate a nice privacy document for me. One of the interesting things here is if you ran the exact same prompt as me and attached the exact same document, you're not going to get the same outcome. There's a degree of randomization essentially in the back end, so that when it's generating an output, it's not going to be exactly the same as the next person's output. Um, you wouldn't want it to be exactly the same. However, the more information you can provide in the prompt, the more accurate and the more consistent you can have those answers being. Apparently, it's going to take some extra time, so we'll just give it a moment to finish. Right, here's our policy. Because these generative AI models work on prediction and probability, it's working through the document from the start to the end to generate it based on the most probable outcome, or the most on the probability of this being the best fit for my prompt. So it works from start to end to generate the output. You'll see we're up to 5 pages of content here. It's got references down the bottom here, which is very good. I like having references in my documents because I know that, or in my prompt output, because I know where the data is coming from there. It pops up at the bottom there and says, hey, look, do you want to keep this? And I say, yeah, that looks good to me. So you'll see there's some nice tables in here. There's some nice bullet points. And it's generated a generally pretty good document. Actually, I'll turn off dark mode. We'll make that a little bit brighter for you. Obviously, it may not be 100%, but I always kind of figure it's going to take you 80% there. It's got some references to the Privacy Act. It's got some placeholders in here that I noticed for your organization name. So if I had provided my organization name, it would have populated that. But at the moment, it's got some placeholders in there I can go and change. So that's pretty cool. What else could we do? Well, we can go and edit the document using Copilot. If I went and selected all of these bullet points here, for example, I could say, right, I could do a bunch of different things. I could rewrite this, I could fix spelling, grammar, I can structure and refine, I can make shorter, I can make it more formal, etc. But what I am going to do is visualize this as a table. There's 8 bullet points here, and I'm thinking, it's probably easier to look at those as a table. And I don't like creating tables in Word, it's always a pain in the bum. So I have changed those to be a table. Now back there, I had the option of replacing the section that I had highlighted and used Copilot to act upon. And I said add rather than replace. So I've still got that content there. So I'm just going to delete that. And there's my section. Oh, cool. Some of the other things I could do in this introduction, I could say, oh, right, that sounds a little bit too formal. I could say, make this less formal, hit go, and Copilot will go away and make my introduction a little less formal, depending on the audience. And you'll see down here, I've got the option to keep it or replace it, or I could change it a little bit more if I wanted to. So I'll say replace. So it's a little bit more casual in the language that it's using. I can go through and work on my document with Copilot as my assistant, as my Copilot, to edit the document and make it into the correct form. Now, the next thing I could do is I've got Copilot up in the bar here as well. So we've been working in the document. We can also work on the document. I could do something like type in here, a very short prompt, assess this document for suitability for a 10 to 15-year-old class of students. I know that this document's not really uh, suitable for a class of students, but let's see what Copilot thinks. So in a real life situation, you might be saying, hey, look, I'm preparing this document for the board. Is this document suitable for the board? Is it suitable? Is it not? And you'll come back and it'll say, hey, it would be more suitable to provide a simplified and engaging materials that introduce basic concepts of data privacy and security in a way that blah, blah, blah. So it's basically saying, hey, look, this isn't great. You could do it in this way. In which case, I could jump back in here. I could select my whole document and use Copilot to rewrite the whole thing. I could say, make this document more suitable for a 10-year-old audience, 15-year-old audience, executive audience, board, etc. So I could go and work on the whole document on that basis. Other things I can do in here, I can say summarize this document like I can in Outlook. I can summarize it. If it was a document that was 100 pages long that someone had sent to me, I could go and get a summary. I can talk to the document. I can say, hey, look, can you tell me about categorization of data for personally identifiable information? And it would go delve through the document and find that information for me. So here we're working on the document opposed to in it. Got a couple of questions here. George has asked, can you program Word to have set headings and fonts as default with Copilot responses? Not that I know of. The workaround I would probably use for that, George, would be to create a template. And then when I'm generating my document, I would say use this template and generate the document. So there's not a setting in Word. You would generate your template file. So when you're generating your document from scratch using Copilot, putting in your prompt, you would say, hey, create this document, my privacy policy, leveraging my template that I have attached as well. So the answer is basically, yes, you can do it, but it's not built into Word. You have to create that template. Next question from Charlene is, can we instruct Copilot to use different languages like Te Reo Maori? Yes, we can. If you basically just ask Copilot, it will generate content in Te Reo. It knows, I can't remember how many languages, 112 languages or something. I could do a full translation of this document. How accurate it is another matter, but again, it would take you at least 80% there to doing a translation. So pretty capable in some of these areas. Right, I'm going to jump back into PowerPoint here. So we basically covered off an example of generating a document with an attachment using GCSE, goal context, source expectations, and then working in the document and on the document within Word. The next thing I am going to jump to here, it's one of my favorites, is generating PowerPoint presentations. So one way I could do this is I could jump into my Copilot chat. So if I jump back into my Copilot chat, jump out of there, I'm going to go new chat. I'm going to use GPT-5 just because I like GPT-5. I'm going to say, generate information that I can use for a presentation on dog breeds. I'm presenting to a group of people who are deciding which breeds would be most appropriate and include quirky traits. I want to review 5 dog breeds and use New Zealand English. Now, if I had a document that could feed into this, I could attach it. I could also say, generate the presentation in PowerPoint as the output. Now, I'm not going to let this run because I'm going to do something else. This would generate a PowerPoint presentation for me. and it would probably do an okay job. Actually, I'll hit go while I'm talking. So this will go off and it will generate a presentation for me, but it's going to do it not within PowerPoint. It's going to do it within the Copilot chat. And then it's essentially going to export that into PowerPoint for me. And it may use a little bit of Python in the background if I'm lucky. Yeah, it's generating a little bit of Python here, and leveraging some libraries to write the Python, to write the slides for me, which is pretty cool. It's not going to attach images for me. So once I've generated my PowerPoint presentation, I would have to generate some images. And I could obviously run a prompt here and say, hey, generate some images to go along with this presentation. And it would go and do that. So if I do jump into this presentation that it's generated for me, let's have a wee look. Oh, it's done a pretty good job, actually. Better than it usually does. I've got, what, 7 slides here? Got dog breed overviews and things like that. It's not bad. Let's jump in to see if I've got any notes. Oh, look at that. It has given me some notes as well. That's pretty good. This is better than it usually does. It's a pretty standard sort of template though. There's only 7 slides, but it's actually quite surprising, the sort of job it's done. What I would typically do is go new blank presentation within PowerPoint. Let's open up a new window here, so I will let it do that. And I would go create new presentation within PowerPoint. So the way that I'm showing you now is probably the preferred way. Whilst you could do it in the chat, and it looks like it's getting better at that, this will give you a better result. So there's a couple of options here. I can go and change my presentation template. So if I had a template within my organization, I can select it at this point and it would appear in here. There's some standard templates as well. So I could say orange experience, I want to use this template. And in here, this is my prompt. I want to create a presentation about dog breeds. I am presenting to a group of people who are deciding which breed they're going to buy or adopt. And I would include the similar sort of information again. If I had a reference file, I could attach it at this point. Just here, reference files. So I'm going to click go. So the benefits of doing this in PowerPoint opposed to the Copilot chat. For one, it's going to give me a bit of an outline. So it builds a bit of a straw man of what my presentation might look like. And here I have the opportunity to swap around some of these slides as well. So I've got Border Collie, Labrador Retriever, French dog, Bulldog, Cavalier, King Charles Spaniel, and a Staffy. So I can move those around. I could add additional sections. I could add a new topic in here if I wanted to, can delete sections, or I could jump back into my prompt and edit it to make it a little bit more exactly what I wanted, refine it a little bit. If I'm happy with that, I can hit generate slides. And you'll see down the bottom here, it's going to do a whole bunch of things. It's going to go and basically do a bit more research on each of those dogs and start to flesh out that straw man that it's already generated. And you'll see that we are already getting beyond the 7 slides that we've generated with Copilot Chat. Did an okay job, but this is doing a much better job. Doesn't take too long. It's probably going to end up being about 20 slides long, which is pretty impressive. And here we are. So once that's done, I can say keep it. And I'm just going to go and change the view to the normal view. Look on one of my slides here, and you'll see that it has given me notes again, like the Copilot chat did. But I've ended up with 23 slides. It's a little bit better structured. It's got sections here around each of the dogs, and it's got several slides for each dog. So if I click on one of these, you can see my notes down here. If I say go, present, you'll see it's got some animations built in. And I could essentially, start working through my presentation immediately. If I had given a source of information, so say that privacy document, and I wanted to present that back to the team who was going to be needing to abide by that privacy document, I could say, hey, look, use this privacy policy and turn it into a PowerPoint presentation. I can turn a whole bunch of different documents into PowerPoint presentations. And the same thing in Word. In Word, I could turn a PowerPoint presentation into a Word document. So the ability to translate between different formats of documents is one of the superpowers of Copilot. It'll actually imbibe that document, understand it, rewrite it in a different format, retaining the detail that you specify as important. So there may be specific areas here that you want to retain, or you want to dig into on your dog presentation, etc. It will make design suggestions here. They're starting to crop up all around the place. They're leveraging Copilot for that, even in some of the free licensed features. This is available. We can start to edit some of these slides using Copilot as well. So we can actually go add a slide, add a topic, ask Copilot. So I could ask it questions about this presentation as well. So just like in Word, we can go and edit this. We can also, I believe at the top here, go and discuss the document, work on the document as well as in the document. What is the tone of this presentation? Can you review this presentation? Has it got relevant information for my audience? Is there any other things that I should be adding in? What have I forgotten? So it allows you to critique your presentation, your Word document, etc. Right, so that's kind of PowerPoint. So we've said, hey, look, you could generate it like this, make your PowerPoint presentation. Probably don't need to generate those accompanying images now. A couple of weeks ago, you did. It didn't include the images in your presentation. So they're upping the ante in terms of the functionality out of the Copilot chat, but leveraging Copilot within PowerPoint is probably the best option to get the best output there. As I said, you can reuse documents. So I could pump a Word document into PowerPoint, or I could pump a Word document into Word and have it translated and highlight or expand on some different areas. Or I could even include content to an email. So we've got a couple of minutes to go. Just want to mention, so these are the next two sessions I'm running: automate, analyze, and personalize with Copilot. So we go a bit deeper into some of the Copilot instructions, etc., how to generate those in Outlook. And then we move on to agents in the last session, where we start to go into a bit of detail around how to generate and leverage researcher, analyst agents, and build your own agents as well, and what workflows are related to that. I will upload this. This is a bunch of prompting tips. So when you're creating your prompts, these are some of the other things that you might think about: providing a perspective or a persona, asking for references, thinking about the output format. Do I want it in Word? Do I want it in Excel? Do I want a PDF? Be clear and specific. Don't use abbreviations or contractions and things like that, because they may mean something in an American context, and you may get the American interpretation rather than the Kiwi interpretation, and a few other suggestions there. Just those prompt ingredients there too, and a bunch of resources that may be available, that may be useful for you. So we've got a couple of minutes, so I'll answer a couple of questions before we close out. Bradley's got one here. Do Microsoft advise in advance what new features are going to be released and what we can expect next for Copilot? Yes, I have a tab here. This is the M365 roadmap. And if we go in here, you'll see I've got Copilot selected. So these are the latest features that are rolling out. So what's the latest one here? Show more results in Copilot chat, Teams chats and context IQ, facilitator agents. So yes, what I'll do is chuck that in the chat for you. Thanks, Debbie. There you are, Bradley. So you should be able to jump straight into there, and it'll show you all the latest updates, and they're pretty thick and fast. Any other questions before we close out? We're right on 12 o'clock.